I absolutely love this lens. I got it a few months ago, and to be honest, I wasn't expecting much. I just wanted to try a relatively wide but very fast lens. And I find myself using it more and more every day. Why? Because of the very unique look of the images that this lens is able to create. Dare I say that the images that I make with this lens remind me a lot of the medium format look. Anyway, since I like this lens so much, I've been wanting to try fast but even wider lenses. The thing is, I'm not a review channel, nor do I have the resources to be buying and selling lenses, nor do I want to do that. Thankfully, Borrow Lenses reached out to me a few days ago and offered a loan, so I immediately said yes. So during the last few days, I've been testing two of the widest and faster lenses that you can find out there, at least for the Sony system. They are the Sigma 14mm 1.8 and the Sigma 20mm f1.4. They are not cheap lenses, especially the 14mm, so I wouldn't have been able to get my hands on them if it wasn't by renting them. So again, my thanks to Borrow Lenses. Renting from them has been a great experience. Now, this is not a review of these two lenses. I got them to test if the fast aperture would make as much a difference at this focal length as it does with 35mm, and that's all I'm going to be talking about in this video. If shooting at 1.4 at 20mm and 1.8 at 14mm makes any sense. This picnic table right here is the perfect example why I like wide and fast lenses. What I want to capture here is the table in this environment that is hostile. It's almost like an object that is out of place. I talked about this in a video a few weeks ago about tips, how to shoot in the snow, but I want to capture that table with a little bit of context. So a wide-angle lens would do a terrific job here already, but if we want to put the cherry on top, we could use a wide, fast lens. So we still include the background, but they're going to be in a very, very subtle way out of focus. So this is the image. The images that I'm gonna show you here are pretty much straight out of camera with just the lens correction applied. This is the one that I took with the 35mm, and now we are gonna compare it to the one that I took with the 20mm. Pay attention to the background because I tried to keep the table at the same size in both images. Look what happens to the background. As you can see, the table is pretty much the same size at the same spot in both images, but the background is completely different. We get much more of the background with the 20mm than we do with the 35. Now, what about subject isolation? So I focus here on the bench. So the whole table is in focus with the 20mm. It was shot at 1.4. As we can see, the background is out of focus too, not a lot, but enough to offer some subject isolation. When we compare this to the 35 though, the 35 was shot at 1.4 as well, we can see that there is no comparison here, and the background is much more out of focus, offering a much better subject isolation. I'm trying to show you, but my computer is very slow. I have a couple more examples. Both were shot at the widest aperture, the 20mm at 1.4, and we have the same story. The background is out of focus, not a lot, but enough. And the 14mm, this one was at 1.8, and the background is surprisingly out of focus as well. That's because I had to get really close to this table to get it at this size, because this lens is so wide that really you can fit a lot in your images. This other image was taken with the 14mm 1.8 again versus the 20mm at 1.4. Again, pay attention to what happens to the background The chapel and the benches are almost the same size, but the background is completely different. It's easier to remove distractions like this trash can here with the 20 millimeters, but the 14 millimeters makes everything look much smaller in comparison to our subject, so it depends once again on the scene. Now, bokeh wise, both lenses do a pretty similar job. The chapel is ever so slightly out of focus, but you can still see every detail, while the trees are not, so you don't see every leaf, every branch, every single detail of the trees, making it much easier for the viewer to focus on what matters, to focus on the subject, in this case, the chapel. This is the last example I wanted to show you. I showcases the extreme differences between the 40 millimeters, this is the shot with the 14, and the 35 millimeter lens. This was taken with the 35. Again, look at the background. I was trying to keep this post the same size, at the same position in the image, and the 14 millimeters makes everything look much smaller in the background, but it also adds stuff like these goals here and some mark. My computer's so slow. And these marks here on the side. Again, this was shot at the widest apertures of both lenses, but the 35 millimeters did a much better job. When it comes to isolating the subject, this post and the net is beautifully in focus here, but look at that and how it goes out of focus, and when we get to the background, it's very, very nice. The 14 millimeters does a pretty good job as well, but you can see more details from the background and from that net. So what are my thoughts after a few days shooting with these two lenses? Well, I really enjoy shooting with the 20 millimeters 1.4. I really think that the 1.4 aperture does make a difference when it comes to isolating your subject from the background. I really like the focal length. 20 millimeters is pretty wide, so it gives you a lot of room. I especially like it because I crop all my photos to 1 by 1. It's a very heavy crop. I'm getting rid of, 35% of the image. So sometimes fitting a lot of stuff in your image is not that easy with other focal lengths, and 20 millimeters actually gives me a lot of freedom to do that while still giving me that super fast aperture to isolate my subject. So I really like this lens. Am I gonna buy it? No. These two lenses are using a design that was meant for DSLR cameras, not for mirrorless. So I'm hoping that Sigma updates these two lenses soon with a smaller, lighter, and cheaper version of both of them, while still keeping the aperture and hopefully allowing for mounting filters in the front of the lens. But as they stand right now, they are too big and too heavy. I don't have room in my camera bag for them. And as you know, I only buy new lenses or new cameras if I can fit them in my camera bag. That's all I wanted to share with you about wide and fast lenses. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.